All right, here we go. Here is problem number 3 because I told you to skip problem number 2. But you have to find the recursive. Okay, so again, our first term in our sequence is f of negative 2, and then it's equals 0. Now we have f of x equals f of x minus 1 plus something right here, which is going to be mx plus b, where the m is our second difference. Okay, so got to figure out our first difference. So to get from 0 to negative 1, I subtract 1. To get from negative 1 to 0, I add 1. To get from 0 to 3, I add 2. There's my first difference. Then I figure out, okay, to get from negative 1 to 1, I add 2. To get from, oh, this should be a 3. To get from 1 to 3, I add 2. So my second difference is 2. So I'm going to say 2x. Make my new table, where I'm trying to figure out an equation to go from these x's to these first difference, because this is what I'm adding every single time, okay? So my new table, I have all my x's, I have my first difference. So I write negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1. Now, I always skip these because, again, I want to write these numbers. I'm trying to write a rule to get from these x's to these green numbers. So I skip the first one. Then I write negative 1, 1, 3. You told me that I needed to take all my x's and I need to multiply them by 2. So here we go. I take my x's. Oh, look, 0 times 2 is 0. So what do I have to add to get to 1? I add 1. Let's do 2. 1 times 2 is 2. I have to add 1 to get to 3. So what do you have to add every time? 1. Okay, so there is your recursive equation for number 3. Okay, the explicit equation for number 3. All right, so explicit equation is going to be ax squared plus bx plus c. A is where we start. We take our second difference and we divide it by 2. So let's do that. A equals, our second difference is 2. So I do 2, but then I have to divide it by 2. So a is 1. So my equation is f of x equals 1 x squared. That's what I know so far. I skip over the b because I don't know about that yet. Then I go straight to the c, which is your y-intercept. Okay, it is your y value when x equals 0. Okay, so go find in your table, when does x equal 0? Oh, look, that's right here. X equals 0. So our y value is 0. So this is our c. Okay, so I say 1x squared plus 0. That's my equation. Okay, now I got to see if I'm right, or do I have to adjust it? So I'm going to make my new table where I have my x's, and I'm going to see if this equation works. 1x squared plus 0, which is the same as just x squared. Okay, I'm going to write my x's. I have negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1. I take negative 2, I plug it into my equation, so I have negative 2 squared, which is the same as negative 2 times negative 2, which is positive 4. Then I do negative 1 squared, which is negative 1 times negative 1, which is positive 1. 0 squared is 0, 1 squared is 1. Okay? And now I have to see, did that get my original y values? So we're going to go up to our table, and I'm going to say, did I get the numbers that I wanted? Did I get these numbers right up here? So I'm going to write those in this space over here. So my first one was 0, then it was negative 1, then it was 0, then it was 3. Okay? Clearly, my equation did not give me the correct answers because I got a 4 and I wanted a 0. It gave me a 1 and I wanted a negative 1. It gave me a 0. Oh, that one worked. But then 1 to 3. Okay? So I have to adjust. So this right here is your adjustment, which is your bx term. Okay? So if I'm at 4 and I want to get to 0, I subtract 4. If I'm at 1 and I want to get to negative 1, I subtract 2. If I'm at 0 and I want to get to 0, I add or subtract 0, right? If I'm at 1 and I want to get to 3, I add 2. Okay? So these numbers are my bx term. Okay, so your b value is always the slope of this. So what was I adding every time? Oh, I was adding 2. Okay, let's make sure that works. To get from these numbers to these numbers, 1 times 2, does that give me 2? Yes. Negative 1 times 2, does that give me 2? Yes. Okay, so what did I do every time? I took my x's and I multiplied it by 2. So b must equal 2. All right, so now let's just fill in our entire equation that we have. I have f of x equals, my a value was 1, x squared, plus, I was adding 2 every time to get those adjustments, and then multiplying it by x, so plus 2x, and then my c value was 0. And there you are. There's your explicit equation for number 3.